Kiss didn't just build a successful band. They built something modern artists can't touch anymore. And that's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to say out loud. Because when people ask why no modern band can replicate Kiss's business success, they always point to the wrong thing. They say it's about talent, or marketing, or social media strategy. But that misses the real point entirely. Here's the reality. Modern bands aren't failing to copy Kiss's blueprint. The world that made that blueprint work no longer exists. Let's break it down. Back in the 1970s, Kiss didn't think like musicians. They thought like brand architects. The music mattered, but it was never the whole product. The makeup wasn't just visual flair, it was intellectual property. The logos weren't decoration, they were trademarks. The personas weren't personalities, they were characters. That distinction matters, because characters can be licensed, characters can be franchised, characters can outlive charts, trends, and even the band itself. That's why decades later, the Kiss name, image, likeness, and even the face paint designs were valuable enough to be sold as a single asset package. That's not nostalgia, that's proof. Now here's where modern bands hit their first wall. Kiss emerged in an era of controlled scarcity. You didn't see them every day, you didn't know everything about them, and when they appeared, it felt like an event. That mystery wasn't accidental, it was structural. Media was limited, access was restricted, attention was concentrated. Today, none of that exists. Modern artists are required to be constantly visible, constantly posting, constantly explaining themselves. And the more visible you are, the less myth you can sustain. Mystique dies in daylight. That alone breaks the Kiss model at its foundation. But the damage goes deeper. Kiss didn't just attract fans, they organized them. The Kiss Army wasn't a marketing slogan, it was an identity system. Fans weren't consumers, they were participants. You wore the merch to signal belonging. You defended the band as part of who you were. You passed it down. That kind of devotion isn't common anymore, not because fans care less, but because culture has changed. Today, loyalty is fragmented. Playlists replace albums, algorithms replace discovery, and identity is spread across hundreds of artists instead of centered on one. Kiss didn't compete in a playlist economy, they competed in an identity economy. That difference is everything. Now add the biggest structural shift of all, streaming. Music used to be owned, now it's accessed. That single change quietly collapsed the gravity of music itself. When songs feel disposable, everything built on top of them feels lighter too. Merch becomes an upsell, tours become content, and brands become collaborations instead of universes. Kiss built their empire when music still felt sacred, something you saved for, traveled for, and committed to. Modern artists build in an environment where abundance kills reverence. And then there's the business side nobody likes to talk about. Kiss centralized control early. Brand decisions stayed close to the core. Licensing was aggressive, disciplined, and long-term. Ownership was protected. That mindset came directly from Simmons and Paul Stanley, who treated the band as a company long before that was fashionable. Most modern artists don't operate that way. They move fast. They outsource control. They trade ownership for reach. That's not a failure, it's survival in today's system. But survival doesn't build empires. Which brings us to the hard conclusion. Kiss didn't win because they were smarter than everyone else. They won because they built something perfectly aligned with their moment in history, a mass media era, a scarcity-driven culture, an untapped merchandising landscape, and an audience hungry for symbols, not transparency. That intersection doesn't exist anymore. So when people ask why no modern band can replicate Kiss's business blueprint, the answer is simple. They're trying to rebuild a monument in a world that no longer uses stone. And if you value legacy over image, if you believe real bands are built on chemistry, not algorithms, make sure you subscribe to Next Wave Vision 92. Join the silent majority that still cares about what rock music stood for, not just how long it lasted. And if you want the next chapter in this legacy breakdown, watch the video suggested on your screen right now. You won't want to miss it.